Welcome to Paramecia, a One Piece fan cast where we review the latest chapter and have a One Piece related discussion every week. This week, we're going to be talking about chapter 883, Merienda. So, John, what happened this week?
Shit. It was a short chapter in terms of like story beats, not a lot. I mean, it was the first chapter in a while that we've stayed solely following Luffy versus Katakuri. Every week we get a snippet of it, and then we cut to someone else. Then we get a snippet, we cut to someone else. And I like seeing the other characters, but I think everybody, seeing Luffy put against the wall against like his doppelganger, basically. Like everybody wanted to see the conclusion to this, or like, more of it. So I'm glad that even though this chapter was like short in terms of like story progression beats, I guess, we got a lot of information.
We got a lot of other kinds of beats.
Yeah. Beats by Dre. No. All that happened was that Luffy, Luffy's fighting Katakuri. Seems like Katakuri beats Luffy. Seems like he kills him. We know Luffy isn't dead, but,
But he's dead.
It looks like he kills him. And then Katakuri's like, oh, I'm gonna go eat. And then we see him eating. And then he's like, oh, you saw me eating, so I have to kill you. And then Luffy gets a hit on him. And that's like really simplified, but I mean, yeah.
It's reductive, but it works.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess we'll start from the very beginning. So, something I want to correct from last week. I guess it was just an error on Oda's part, or whichever assistant was in charge of coloring in the stuff.
Whoever got fired.
Yeah. I guess you could argue that when he was biting, when he put his arm over his mouth last chapter, he hadn't armored up yet. So I guess that could be argued.
Yeah, it's a little thing. Yeah. Like it doesn't really matter, but we saw it.
Yeah, we got you, Oda, red-handed. This is a long con, but we got you. No, so he's trying to go Gear 4th, and Katakuri literally flicks his finger and uses his awakening to, like, stop Gear 4th from happening. Like, he separates Luffy's arms from his mouth, and he has a line like, why should I keep quiet and watch you do something that will make you stronger? Which is, I mean, smart. Like,
it's common sense. Oftentimes, you'll have, like, villains just, like, sitting, like, the whole trope is, like, magical girl transformations. Like, this whole shit's, like, going on, like, in real time, and people are ostensibly just, like, sitting there just, like, the fight?
Yeah.
And so, like, Katakuri is not gonna do that shit. He's a smart man.
Yeah.
Look at him.
It's even, they did the same thing in Doflamingo's fight. You made me think of that. Like, when Luffy went Gear 4th, Doflamingo was just standing there. Like, he just watched them. Because Doflamingo was cocky as hell, but he just watched them go Gear 4th. And then he laughed at him, and then he got his ass beat. And I'm glad that Katakuri is like, alright, like, nah, I can see what's gonna happen. I'm nipping this in the butt now.
Katakuri has been consistently putting respect on Luffy's name. And he says it this time, like, he lets him know, like, know this. I haven't underestimated you in the slightest. He knows Luffy could fuck him up, so that's why he's fucking him up instead.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what makes the fight, sorry. I feel like that's what makes the fight so much more intriguing to every one of us that, like, reads One Piece weekly. Because, like, every single guy that fights Luffy, or, like, every single villain we fought Luffy, I mean, there's probably maybe one that's the outlier, but most of them, the majority of them, when we fight Luffy, it's always, like, again, like, it's just so recent in my memory. Like, it's a Doflamingo situation. Like, Doflamingo thinks that Luffy could never beat him. And seeing not only a really high-ranking villain like Katakuri, like, first commander of the Big Mom, like, pirates.
A bajillion babies.
Yeah. Oops, all berries. But seeing somebody like him who's literally explicitly stating, like, if I let you do what you want, like, there's a chance you could beat me, so I'm not gonna let you do it. Like, him, like, acting like that with Luffy, I think is really cool, because it puts Luffy on edge, but it pushes Luffy to get even stronger, and I feel like that was, like, the point of this battle with Katakuri. Like,
I mean, more so than like pushes Luffy to get stronger, I would say that it's also pushing Luffy to use his brain for once.
Yeah. I mean, he does use his brain. Like he's quick on the draw when it comes to like fighting stuff, as shown in this chapter, but like yeah, when it comes to everything else, he's kind of a fucking idiot.
He's not book smart.
Yeah.
He's fist smarts.
Yeah. He thinks with his knuckles, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, so, Katakuri talks about, he's like, yo, Luffy, I put respect on your name. And then he uses Awakening, and he's just like, yep, I'm gonna suffocate you to death. Like, I'm gonna crush you and suffocate you, and you're not gonna survive. And he puts him in, like, this, like, Mochi... He puts him in, like, this...
Mochi prison.
Yeah, this Mochi prison. I read somebody on Twitter saying that it was, like, I guess the shape of what he puts him in is some kind of, like, Japanese mochi dessert.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
it is.
okay, yeah.
It's, like, noted by, like, what's topping it. It's, like, a little, like, sweet thing, if memory serves.
Yeah, it looks like a little, like, orange or something. I don't know, but regardless, it is, like... I'm willing to take random guy on Twitter who I read that from's word.
The next thing that happens is this man, he just like, what he did was he Gara sand-burialed Luffy, and immediately after, he's just like, I miss snack time.
Yeah.
Because, translator notes probably, like, referenced it, but it's basic... What it is like tea time in England. It's like snack time in like Southern Europe and some very bougie parts of Latin America that are still think they're part of Europe.
Yeah.
I have experienced this and it's the best shit ever.
I fucking love merienda.
I fucking love mierda. Because I'm dyslexic and that's what I read. But,
that must have been a confusing chapter, like, front page, like, mierda.
Like, damn, Oda, I didn't think we were that
Someone's
raunchy.
teaching Oda bad words over there. Nah. No, but Katakuri, like, he explicitly states, like, because of you, I missed snack time. Like, it's just...
He's just being, like, pretentious about it because he's the commander and this and that, and it's just like,
yeah,
whatever, man. But oh my god, I everything after that, I was so in love with.
Yeah. So he starts it off with like, oh, like because of you I missed snack time, and then the chefs come in and they're like, oh my god, like we were so worried because every day you have it at 3, and we were ready at 3, but because you're a perfectionist, you were forced to reschedule because you had to pummel Straw Hat, like, and the black tea went cold, and then he's like, oh, I'll at that point, I think he's just trying to hurry up. He's like, whatever, I'll take iced tea.
Yeah, not necessarily being, like, kind.
Yeah,
or
like,
anything.
they were like, oh, so kind, and I think he's like, alright, just give me the fucking donuts, let's go.
Man, they look like Muppets, the pastry chefs. They straight up look like Muppets.
Yeah, so then Katakuri's like, oh, like, sugar is like the wellspring of strength, and then he's like, hey, so so he's like, so I'm gonna make this shrine. Nobody disturb me. Nobody ever come into my fucking shrine. If anybody comes into my fucking shrine, I swear to fucking God. And then the chefs are like, yeah, cool, like that's normal.
Hold up, like 2 seconds. Let me like Google something like. Okay, yeah, no, so out of Mochi, Katakuri basically constructs himself a portable masturbatorium.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know if you're aware of what that is. If you and you listeners are not aware of that, I envy your lives. But it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just a jerk-off hut.
Yeah, so he goes into his sugary jerk-off hut, and he's like, nobody ever come inside, like, I swear to God I'll kill all of you. And they're like, oh my God, like, he's such a delicate soul. He just wants to enjoy his meal in peace. And yeah, and then Luffy breaks out of the mochi right after that. And the chefs are kind of like, we know that Luffy was gonna eat his way out at some point, but then the chefs are like, what? Like, they kind of play the part of like what? Like, how'd you get out of that? Like, you were dead. And Luffy Luffy gives an explanation as to why he hasn't beaten Katakuri like he did Cracker, because he says, I freaking hate eating mochi.
Such a like beautiful cherry on top explanation. Of all things to be tired of eating, like, I feel like it's kind of ironic because he's made of rubber and mochi is usually referred to as having like kind of a stretchy rubbery texture. So it's just a lot of irony in this. And then on top of that, like, go figure that like this is his element. Just he has to eat. And he wins.
Sanji's element is fire, and Luffy's element is food. Yeah, no, I thought it was really funny that, like, he explicitly states he hates eating mochi, which is, I think, like, kind of Oda's answer to everybody who was like, well, he fought for 11 hours and just kept eating Crackers biscuits. Like, why doesn't he just eat, like, why can't he just eat Katakuri? And it's like, well, he doesn't like mochi, apparently. And I also like the in the same panel, the follow-up line he has where Luffy says, what the hell is going on? What's with my fights with this pirate crew? Can I not win without eating? And I just think that's so great.
Of course, it would be this arc where Luffy finally gets tired of eating.
Yes, exactly. And it's wild.
Something I just want to bring up is that the shape of his portable masturbatorium is not even like heavily inspired. It's literally like a Japanese shrine, usually used to like keep statues of gods or like sacred instruments in them and everything. So that's the design that's
cool.
going
so it's
on
like
there.
It's like a sacred hut.
A sacred jerk-off hut. Another thing I wanted to add about Katakuri is that he's basically just a health goth.
Yeah, he's health goth. Yeah.
And I dig it.
I think we all dig. We can all dig Katakuri's. After this chapter, I know some people were gonna get kind of mad.
People will get pissed. Yeah,
I thought it was pretty funny, but yeah. So Luffy eats his way out of the mochi, and he's like, where'd he go? He's asking the chefs. And the chefs try to lie. And they tell him, like, oh, he already left the mirror world. He has important business. And Luffy has observation honky, and he's not an idiot. Well, yeah. And he's like, I can feel him in there. Like, he's in there. And then he smells the air, and he's like, and he's eating donuts, isn't he?
He uses his conquering blood in hockey to sense the donuts.
It's fucking great. Yeah, and then, man, I don't know. This arc has made me appreciate every time we see Fat Luffy. I really enjoy Fat Luffy now because he's so funny, and the picture of him being fat and pounding his like pumping his fist is like it's just hilarious.
It's such a powerful emotion.
And then, oh man, see, I like that Luffy then begins to run off. Luffy then begins to exercise in the matter of seconds, burn off all the fat from the mochi that he ate, like burn off all the calories to get back to normal, and then
you want to hear a related, I'm not being serious, crack theory.
Go ahead.
So the will of the D means that they're not human. Clearly seen in this arc when Luffy grows back his teeth like some sort of monster, and how he just burns off calories. I can't really go any further. I don't have the will, nor do I have the facts to keep quote unquote backing that.
Oh my gosh! Shout outs to One Piece theories, the good and the bad. Yeah, so he runs off all the fat and shoots an elephant gun straight. He punches the roof off basically of the masturbatorium, And then we see the what I thought was like the funniest 2-page spread that I've seen in a while. Is Lord Katakuri, scarf off, just glutton. He has fangs. I don't know what race he is or what's wrong with his mouth, but he's stretching his mochi mouth to fit these fat ass donuts in, and he's lying on the ground. He's going against everything Brule built him up to be, and he just gets like Katakuri just gets maximum triggered when they see him. Like his pride is like hurt or something.
It's beautiful. I love it so much because like it's a great example of how Katakuri and Luffy are the exact same. They even like expand their mouths in order to eat more and shit, and they just love food. And like man, what a good foil.
What a good foil to have. Like they're both the same. Again, like we've been saying, they're a mirror match. Like they're the same character. Like they have similar character traits, but like the downfall for Katakuri here is like Luffy's strength against the Big Mom pirates so far. Like Katakuri having to eat and reveal his mouth is like his downfall, and Luffy having to eat is what allows him to, bust out Gear 4 like nonstop.
Damn, if you put it that way, shit. No, another thing is like, if you remember, the Big Mom pirates are basically like everyone in charge is basically one of like 50 siblings or something like that, 80 siblings. I don't even remember. She fucked too many people.
It's a big family.
But they are all from different races. Well, not all, but for the most part, they're all from different races. Pudding has 3 eyes.
She's the 3-eyed tribe.
There's the beautiful shark daughter.
Shark daughter that must be protected.
Long legs, long necks, long feet. Wait, no.
Yeah.
Long arms. There we go. Got it. All of that stuff. So, who/what did Big Mom fuck to get Katakuri?
That's the $1 million question that I think is on my mind after seeing his mouth like this, because I'm like, that's definitely not. He's definitely not human. I mean, okay, I know we talked about this earlier before recording. You brought up Gecko Moria.
Yeah, I don't want to commit to that.
Because Gecko Moria, on all accounts that I think exist, he's technically human. He's just like weird. But like, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think these are. I don't think these are human. I think this is some kind of racial trait. But it's probably something we haven't seen yet, or maybe he's part fishman like Jack. But
That's true. That's another possibility. Probably more sensible, because like my whole line of reasoning was like the connecting dot was like the stitches, but what like really like solidified it for me was like the only person we've seen with teeth like that was Moria. So I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
I think it's plausible that he could be part fishman, only because when we saw Jack, the most recent example, when Zunisha bodies when Zunisha bodied Jack and Jack is floating in the water, and that's when we find out he's part fishman. We can see his mouth, like they knock the thing off his mouth, and we can see like the fangs, and he's like talking, like like pick me up. But outside of that, when we couldn't see his mouth before, like he didn't have any like fishman like traits, like he seemed human, like nobody saw it coming. And I want to say that minus the horns, it's the same kind of thing with the member of the Doflamingo family, Derringer, I think his name is, something like that. The bull shark fishman, or part bull shark fishman. The kid that wore the high heels and he kicked. Yeah, outside of the horns, we didn't really know. And then when he fought Cavendish, he went into like his shark mode, and he reared his teeth out, and he had like fishman teeth like that. So I think it's definitely a possibility that he's a fishman. It's just like we
more probable.
Out of all the races we know right now, at least, that's probably the most plausible. Yeah, I mean, Katakuri enjoys eating, and immediately after,
he loves
he loves cheat
days.
days, and immediately, literally immediately after everybody sees him, like after the characters and we as the audience have a chance to process what happened on the 2-page spread, like, oh shit, like he's like glutton. The next page, he just like mouth closed and he looks menacing as hell with his teeth and like drool, and he's like, all right, so you saw it, like I can't let anybody who's seen this live, like, congrats. And he takes it to the chefs. He kills one of them with the spear with Mogura, and then he uses a technique called block mochi, which is armament, I assume armament hockey on like some kind of like, I think it is he compresses his like mochi arm to make it like block mochi, and then just coats it in armament hockey and just goes.
That's exactly what it has to be, because like, I don't know, they're very deliberate about how they illustrate hockey and how they like accentuate like the sheen of it whenever it's present. So I would 100%. Well, not even like, it's proven to be armament hockey. Like literally pages after.
He kills the chefs, and then he turns and sees Luffy after he kills the chefs, and he has he's like, oh, so you're still alive. Like, it's my bad. Like I should have made sure I killed you. I'll make sure to do it now. And he punches. They clash fists with armament hockey, and then like immediately after the clash, Luffy holds his arm, and it shows his armament hockey hand that he clashed with like inflamed. Like it's thick and it's like throbbing, and like it shows the little like lightning effects, like jolting pain. And this is where it kind of got confusing for me, because so on the first translation I read of it, he says there are things that surpass armament, and then the bottom line is the same in both translations, like I cannot let those who have seen my true form live. But the top one, he says there are things that surpass armament. And I read a second translation afterwards where he says I've got the upper hand in the color of armament too. And just reading both of those, I guess what the gist, or like what he's supposed to be saying, the idea that's supposed to be conveyed, is that his armament hockey is stronger. Like he's kind of boasting, like, oh, like, I have like, I can see into the future with my observation, and I also have stronger armament. Like, you can't win. I think that's what it's supposed to be.
I would bet that that's most likely what's going on, because what has happened along this entire arc since Katakuri's introduction, he's supposed to be just leaner, meaner, better kind of Luffy, and so that would make sense.
So after he kind of boasts to Luffy about like, I have the upper hand in armament hockey, like, I can't let you live because you've seen my secret. Luffy's blowing on his hands because they're still like, both of them are inflamed now, and Katakuri goes in for a punch, and Luffy not only dodges the punch, but he gets a direct kick. Like he makes a direct hit to Katakuri's face, and Katakuri didn't dodge it. And from this point on is like, getting towards the end of the chapter, but Luffy says he didn't dodge it. I even got a kick. Like, I got a kick in. And then Luffy has a couple of speech bubbles where it's like just like ellipses and then like question mark, like exclamation question point. And then he finally,
a lot of bubbles where he's thinking.
Yeah. And then he finally ends it with in the middle of like the second to last page or whatever. He says, I get it now. I understand your power. And they don't, Oda doesn't explain to the viewer, like, wait, what does he get? They just go straight into a clash, Katakuri's like, it doesn't matter if you understand, like, you can never defeat my power. And then Luffy even adds to this point on the last page by saying, you're definitely super strong, but you're not invincible. And he hits him with a Kong gun, and that's the end of the chapter. And I just kind of wanted to bring the question to you, I guess, like, what the hell do you think Luffy, like, what did he get? Like, because I don't think I really get it still.
I mean, what you had mentioned to me before, I feel was like the most reasonable thing to think about, because my first thought on the whole situation is that he broke concentration and he lost his composure in like having his weird teeth revealed, and because of that he can't really focus on the observation hockey or something like that. But I don't necessarily subscribe to that thought anymore, because what you had mentioned earlier, I feel is the most likely possibility.
Yeah.
Is do you want to go ahead and say
Yeah,
it?
yeah. So before we started recording, we talked about the chapter and like kind of organized our thoughts. And I had mentioned I have two schools of thought on this. I have two like ideas. One of them is kind of like I don't think it's like it's definitely plausible, but it doesn't have as much clout as the one we're talking about. So the first one, the one we're talking about, is that so it all has to do with that confusing line that I got confused about.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
they clash armament hockey, and Luffy's hand is like throbbing, and he said, he's like, I have the upper hand in armament hockey. The only thing I like, what I thought upon like the second read through, the first time I was confused, like I didn't get it. So the second read through, what I got from that was that maybe this is Okay, so we know that Katakuri has like the next step of observation hockey, and maybe this, like what he has is he's showing that he also has the next step in armament hockey, because like they're both attacking with armament hockey, and yeah, Luffy's isn't like as strong as people who are like Luffy's armament hockey is not as strong as like Zoro, who has an affinity for armament hockey, like that's his hockey. But even
Definitely not like Virgo.
yeah, no, definitely not Virgo. But even Luffy's armament hockey is powerful, and he can use it with his devil fruit ability, like to combine it. So maybe it's one of those, like there's either a second form of armament hockey, or using the block Mochi armament hockey like combination. Maybe when he does that, he can't really like so the basic idea, I'm getting long-winded. The basic idea is that maybe because he's using this powerful armament hockey, he cannot access his observation hockey at the time. Like he can only choose one or the other at a single moment in time. Like he can't use both. And that's the thing I thought of like upon rereading it, because I can't really see anything else as to like why he would get hit. And
Yeah.
it kind of like thinking about this idea, I mean, I guess next week or whenever we get the revelation of what Luffy will tell us at some point what he understands, like his revelation. But just thinking about this idea in relevance to what has been happening into the fight. So Katakuri has been wanting, like we said, to end this fight. Like he puts respect on Luffy's name, but he's been wanting, but he's been wanting to end this fight like really fast. And yeah, he played with him a bit like in the beginning, but then like when shit started ramping up like to Gear 4th, he was like, all right, like I have to end this. And I want to say that if this theory is true, then maybe this was why, because maybe Katakuri's weakness is that he can't access both of these hockeys at the same time. So if Luffy goes Gear 4th and forces Katakuri on the defensive, yeah, Katakuri might be able to defend himself and clash, but he's still susceptible to getting hit because now he can't see the future. Like Luffy going Gear 4th is an immediate like paradigm shift. Like it's immediate, like, okay, momentum is in my court now. Like
it's a really good dynamic that ended up happening because of that. The only other thing that I could see happening as to like what he gets is that in the page immediately before this, when they no, not 2 pages before this, when they clash, the way it's illustrated harkens to like when Doflamingo and Luffy were fighting, and like their Conquering Kings hockey was like going nuts or whatever. But like I don't really see how that could play into like anything else other than just being like an added power or
just
some
being like
shit.
some kind of visual.
Exactly. Like it doesn't really have legs. I am a firm believer now in the one or the other kind of theory going on here.
Yeah. I that's the only thing I really think. The other thought I had when I initially read the chapter was that maybe it was like maybe because he didn't have his mealtime, like he's weaker. But that to me that doesn't to me that seems like a kind of like if that is the case, that seems like kind of weak story writing on Oda's part. Only because I feel like if snack time for Katakuri was directly involved with his power level, I feel like that would have and should have been introduced way before. Like when we met Katakuri, this would have been a quirk that we had known about. Like, oh, like, you know, during the wedding, like, well, I'm going to be a little bit late because my snack time is then. Or, oh, like, you know, like, I can't pursue the Straw Hats right now. I have to go take my snack time. Like, I feel like if it was just the case that not having the snack time weakens him in some way, then we would have known about it. So, yeah.
Man, speaking of quirks, that is the kind of writing that would happen in the Boku no Hero universe, in that they really focus a lot on like power-ups with trade-offs and reasonings, whereas that doesn't necessarily really happen in One Piece. There are trade-offs or consequences to certain powers, but not as much.
I would say
like
not to the extent
Hero.
of Boku no Hero, or even something like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4, like Diamond is Umbrella. Like those are two examples of manga where it's like you have a power, but it's like it seems shitty and you have to be smart in how you use it. And that's kind of applicable to some of the devil fruits in One Piece. Like definitely, like, you know, I mean, where we are now, because we know what Luffy can do, but it's like on anybody who's just getting into the story, you're like, wow, rubber, like that kind of sucks, like that's stupid. But it's like, oh, he can pump the blood in his body and like make him go super fast, or oh, he can inflate his bones and like hit people with giant limbs, or oh, he can inflate his muscles and like just go nuts. Like the shit Luffy can do is definitely like thinking outside the box.
The one thing, the one moment in which I was super on board with his power being rubber is when he kicked the teeth in of the lightning guy,
Eneru? Yeah.
the Logia fruit user in Skypiea. Yeah, dude. At that moment, I was like, never mind. This power isn't shit.
Never mind. I'm an idiot. No. Yeah, I think that was definitely everybody's reaction when that happened. Like, oh, like Rubber's actually kind of sick because he's about to beat this guy's ass. Like,
do you want to go into this as a discussion? Do you have anything else to add about the chapter?
The only thing I wanted to ask you, and it's just, we could just cut this down to a pretty short, like, yes or no answer with like a sentence, like reasoning. Do you think that Luffy will bust out another form of Gear 4th?
I mean, at this rate, I really want to say no because of how things played out in this chapter specifically. If we're gonna get another form of Gear 4th, that's gonna happen in Wano. We got Bound Man in Dressrosa. We got Tank Man here. We probably will get something in Wano if we do, but I think we're done with this. Like, Katakuri's gonna get his shit
I honestly, I feel like, I agree, because as much as I want a new form of Gear 4th, because like I'm on this Gear 4th high, like ever since we saw
we're riding the high.
That like, ever since we learned that Luffy had different forms of Gear 4th, the question that's been like there in our minds has been, how many forms does he have? Like, how far does this go? Because we know that Rayleigh was there. Rayleigh helped him develop Gear 4th. So Luffy was there for 2 years. I think if I'm remembering the timeline correctly, Rayleigh was there for like half a year, and then he left Luffy on the island. So like he was there for like 6 months or something, and then he left, and Luffy had all the rest of the time to really hone in his own skills against like the animals. And I want to feel like, you know, if he developed base gear 4 there, then like after mastering base gear 4 there, or at least like, you know, getting a good grip on it, I feel like, you know, the time afterwards would have been spent developing more forms. So like I want to see more forms, but at the same time I feel you, like Katakuri has never gone up against Gear 4 Luffy, like Bound Man. So like, you know, he could like I everybody wants to like look, Katakuri's been built up as like the guy of this arc. Like, you know, he's the guy. But
let's not forget that Big Mom is literally like, invincible.
I don't know. I think it's part of the hype train maybe going too far. Because Katakuri's been hyped up, you know. He's the villain, like he's the guy. He's so powerful and perfect, and people get this idea that like, oh, like it's impossible for Luffy to beat like Katakuri. But like I feel like it, you know, on paper, just looking at like, you know, the bounties and like, oh, like where they are, like Luffy should not have been able to beat Cracker, but he did, because like, you know, power levels aren't all that matter in these fights.
Luffy killed Cracker.
Yeah, he did.
Let's not forget, Luffy killed Cracker.
Like Arouge killed Snack. Luffy killed Cracker.
Yeah, no, like the whole bounty thing is like a reoccurring thing that like, oh, like you're just this, you can't possibly do it. Some like borderline like class war kind of like rhetoric going behind that, but it's a very like prominent trope that's useful for writing in certain instances. It happens in Dragon Ball all the time.
I to piggyback off that, I feel like the existence of bounties is, I think it acts as like, it's supposed to act as like a tier list almost. Like if you have a big bounty, like you're up in this tier. That doesn't necessarily mean you're the best. Bounties are where readers place their expectations of a character. Because at this moment, like Jack and Katakuri have had the highest bounties we've ever seen. So immediately our idea was like, oh, like they must be the strongest. And I think that might be like the only fault I can see of this kind of power leveling thing, because it happens in Dragon Ball too. Like Dragon Ball, as it's gone on, the debate has gone from like, oh, like, you know, like Goku, you know, Goku can beat Vegeta, you know, at the beginning because he was using Kaioken times 20, and like he was like, he used his martial arts to like he could, you know, fight on par with Vegeta and all this stuff. And then, you know, by the end of the series now in fucking Super, it's like, oh well, Super Saiyan like Blue is better than Red, so like Goku can just beat them. Like Blue is stronger. Like it's I feel like that's kind of because of the existence of the power levels from Dragon Ball Z. I feel like people kind of subconsciously latch onto that with every series, and One Piece is definitely not an exception. Like everybody sees the bounty.
Yeah, it gets out of hand.
Yeah, everybody sees the bounties and they think it's directly indicative of strength. And the only rebuttal I can say to that, and I feel like it's a pretty strong rebuttal, is Sabo's bounty in it wasn't an SBS. I think it was in a One Piece magazine in Japan fairly recently now. I think it's like a month or two old. Oda, it's like the official One Piece magazine or something like that. Oda officially confirmed Sabo's bounty, and it was like really low. like
602 million.
Yeah, compared to like other characters we've seen. And
yeah,
I remember reading it, and the initial, like, I actually read people like on like you know, people's tweeting about it, and I actually saw people who like legitimately thought that like, oh my god, like I can't believe Sabo's like a jobber. And I'm like, dude, that's not like Sabo's the second in command of the revolutionaries. Like He learned his combat training from Dragon himself. Like, you know, I'm not saying he's like the strongest character to exist, but he's definitely like, you see what I'm saying? Like that expectation the bounty places is not like,
it's out of hand. It really
yeah,
is. And like
there's no direct
Oda's
correlation.
played with that. Like Oda's like basically not in the obvious ways of just like, oh, Luffy beat Cracker, Luffy beat Doflamingo, Luffy's beating Katakuri's ass right now. Not in those obvious ways that like, oh, he's stronger than these people. The best point in which Oda took down those expectations by force was Blackbeard.
Yes.
Bounty of Zero
Yes.
suddenly became a Shichibukai. Suddenly the most evil motherfucker we knew.
Yeah, that man jumped like, God, what a career path. Like that man started from nothing. Like he was just a fucking dirty ass pirate. Nasty boy.
Pata sucia.
Yeah, built a crew immediately, like with a 0 bounty, became a Shishibukai. Like he became a Shishibukai with a bounty of 0, and then using the Shishibukai, like, you know, the pulling the strings that a Shishibukai gives you, he broke more people out of Impel Down to be on his crew, and then, you know, stole Whitebeard's Devil Fruit and jumped straight to Yonko, all while having a 0 bounty. And it's like, that's ridiculous. Like when we found out Blackbeard had a 0 bounty, like when that page came out, I want to find someone who is like, oh, like Blackbeard's like a jobber. Like why are they talking about this guy? Because we all knew he was gonna be important. So it's like when they said he had a 0 bounty, yeah, it was Oda kind of like playing with our shit.
Playing with the whole bullshit.
Yeah. Flipping the power level or the power scaling like idea on its head, I guess. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, man.
I mean, numbers don't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Doflamingo had a bounty of like 300 million. Luffy has one of 500 million right now. Sabo's is like 600 million. Fucking numbers are fake, man.
And just numbers are lies. That's all you gotta know.
One Piece is whose line is it anyways? The points don't matter.
I was waiting. I was like, "Where the hell are you going with this?" And then I caught on.
Got him.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I thought it was a really good chapter. And you know, besides all the power level talk, I agree with you. I don't think Luffy will bust out. As much as I want a new form of Gear 4th, now that he knows the secret like behind Katakuri's power, I think it's pretty much done. I think he's just gonna force him like into submission with Boundman.
Yeah, we're just gonna see a little bit more of like what Katakuri can do, but outside of those bounds, I think it's pretty much done. And like, if the rematch ever happens when they come back to Whole Cake Island, maybe at that point Katakuri will have his own form of Gear 4th or some stupid shit. But like, I don't know, I'd be excited to see it. What will the man think of?
Yeah. What will the absolute madman think of? Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I got. This is a pretty cut and paste chapter. Like it was pretty simple, but it was definitely efficient.
Yeah, I mean, a fight's a fight.
Yeah, a fight's a fight, man, and I'll take it.
Dark Horse. Okay. For our theory, our crack theory that
Yeah.
we end the episode with, let's do someone cashes Money in the Bank.
Yes.
Who cashes in Money in the Bank, Jonathan?
Shit, hold on. I gotta think of this, and then
Yeah.
let me think of it, and then I'll like silence, and then you can edit it in the.
Yeah, no. Like I'm gonna edit
Yeah.
out all this discussion. Hold on.
Like the rambling towards the end.
I've decided entirely against that because upon review, this sounds pretty funny, so fuck that.
Yeah.
Where's the random page thing?
Who would cash in Money in the Bank against Katakuri? Damn, can it just be? Oh shit! Can it be Cracker? Like, can Cracker cash in Money in the Bank to fight fucking Luffy again? Like,
see, but that
okay.
that has a few legs. I'm talking like something.
Okay,
like,
okay. It's someone like. Damn. Because I want it to be like related, but also like dumb as fuck. Like it makes
it's a little bit of a pull, and by a little I mean a lot of bit. But like, what if it's Yasop, Usopp's dad?
Why would he cash in Money in the Bank to? Wait, are they cashing it in the Katakuri Luffy fight, or like?
Yeah, in this fight, they cash in Money in the Bank to join. And that way it just becomes a triple threat match.
Oh my goodness.
Man, who the fuck is this?
Yeah, I don't know, dude. Fucking.
It's one of Vivi's maids. No, okay, that's
Vivi's cashing in Money in the Bank. Vivi.
Is that it?
Vivi or fucking oh my god. Or who else is on fucking no,
Crocodile.
Yeah, Crocodile. Yeah, Crocodile. I like
Fuck
Crocodile.
It. Crocodile.
All right.
Okay.
All right, guys. So that's gonna wrap it up for Paramecia this week. We are not on break next week, so once again, we will be back next week discussing chapter 884. This week's crack theory is as follows. At the end of the Luffy versus Katakuri fight. Oh shit, let me like crack my voice for the crack there.
Yeah.
Alright. During the Luffy and Katakuri fight, I truly and 100% believe that Crocodile, the ex-Shishibukai, will cash in Money in the Bank and make this a triple threat match. Good night, everybody. Have a great week.
And there you have it.